Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Galeatore. So really short point here, and that is to say people often comment underneath my videos saying, is that a longsword, or is that a broadsword, or is that a lucerne hammer, or should that be called a poleaxe, or should that be called a halberd? The fundamental point is that a lot of the names for these things actually are modern conventions, and that historically, yes, these names were used, but they weren't always used for the same thing, and they weren't always used in the same way, in the same place at the same time. I've made this point in previous videos, but if you take the word longsword for example, a longsword in 15th century Germany isn't the same as a longsword in 17th century England. A longsword in 17th century England is, generally speaking, a long-bladed, one-handed cut and thrust sword that's not a rapier, whereas a longsword or Longsword in Germany in the 15th century is what we would generally call a longsword in modern usage, or in the HEMA at least, that being a hand-and-a-half sword or bastard sword. Another term of course is broadsword, and a lot of people, especially in HEMA, go, oh, I hate it when people talk about broadsword when they mean a medieval arming sword. And yes, that's kind of true, that medieval arming swords were never really known as broadswords. However, the term broadsword could mean different things at different times. The term broadsword was used in the 18th century to mean like a basket-hilted, double-edged cut and thrust sword, what we call a Highland broadsword generally now. But equally, broadsword as a term could be used in the 19th century to just mean a sabre. In other words, a sword that wasn't a small sword or a narrow sword, a thrusting sword. So the fundamental point is that these words meant different things at different times to different people, and also a lot of the names like basilard or lucerne hammer or things like this have come to mean very specific things in the modern arms and armour world, but didn't necessarily mean exactly the same thing in historical periods. And indeed, those objects that they are usually referred to weren't usually known by that name. So for example, in 16th century England, I don't think anybody would have used the term lucerne hammer. They just would have referred to a poleaxe. So there we go guys, terminology. It's a pain in the arse. Cheers folks. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and feel free to follow us on Facebook.